Dude, so when I just already buy the dip, man. So we've already seen this past weekend, or at the end of last week, that everybody just dumped their tech stocks. They don't want nothing to do with it because of tariffs, because of what's going on, etc. But what does this mean for people like you and I, right? Those who are already invested and are wanting to invest a bit more, or even those who are just looking to invest to begin with, like the beginners, right? So what does this mean? So we already know when people dump their stocks because there's a panic, or people are overly leveraged, they don't want to continue to run the risk, knowing that stocks will continue to dip, or assuming that stocks will continue to dip. What does this mean for people like you and I? Well, what I do is I essentially buy the dip. Yeah, yeah. I've dude, get out the way, bro. Come on. What I do is I don't wait. I dollar cost average, but when the stocks go down, they are essentially at a discount. They're on sale. I think Black Friday came early today, fellas. So what I'm gonna do is go online, go to my stock brokerage, and put another K or two or three into QQQ or a specific tech stock that I know is going to, or it's going to prosper in the future. Then I call it a day. I've already invested in QQQ. I put like what, a couple of Ks in QQQ a bit of a while ago. So I've seen some growth, but I've also seen some hits because let's face it, QQQ is a lot more volatile than S&P 500. But we already know that the S&P 500, 40% of it is being held up together by tech stocks. If you invest in QQQ, then you have nothing but tech stocks. If you invest in S&P 500, then all you have is 40% of it heavy on tech stocks. We have Nvidia, we have AMD, we have, well, that's all that comes to mind. Because right now I'm playing Need for Speed and commenting at the same time about buying the dip. So what does this mean for me? And what I wanted to share with you guys is essentially just buy the freaking dip. Buy and don't sell. Buy and hold. Don't time the market. Don't time the market. Timing the market never works. Or if it does work, that means you're lucky. You are a very lucky person. What I've come to know after being invested in the stock market, specifically and the S&P growth stock VOOG that Vanguard has, and also the S&P 500 VOO that Vanguard has. Over 5 years since the beginning of the pandemic, the one thing I learned is that because I've had a lot of time in the market, stuff like this doesn't affect my portfolio as much. It goes from going from green, going to super green, and then going back to green when people start to panic, when there's something in the market that upsets it, and then it starts to make investors panic and everybody sells. Then I get to buy at a huge discount again. If I wasn't willing to buy the S&P 500 back when it was $400, I think a bit after the pandemic, and I waited, and that price right now it should be north of 600. So when people sell off and things go down, I get to buy for what, a little bit less than 600. Of course, it's an example. The point I'm trying to get here is that because I was able to buy the S&P 500 when it was at what, 380, 350 for Boo back when the pandemic was hitting. Now I was able to wait and the hold, I should say, not wait, hold is the better word. I was able to hold it and experience growth with the S&P, because right now it should be north of 600. I haven't checked in a while, but to my point, because I've held for a couple of years, there's no rush for me. There's no need for me to sell. I could just continue to watch the portfolio grow. When people buy, it obviously inflates the prices, and when people sell, it deflates the prices. So when it's deflated, I could buy a discount and just ride the wave up. But some people, I don't understand. I guess some people like playing it risky. Some people like headaches, heartaches, or whatever. I don't know and I don't care, but my mentality is, hey, if I put money in the stock market, that money's pretty much gone, or tied, I should say, is tied until I sell. Whether it be at a gain or at a loss, it's tied into the stock market until I sell. And that's the keyword here, right? If it grows, then you get C plus, I guess, however many dollars that the security has grown. But it's not really yours, not really taxable until you sell. And then same thing is true when the stock or security decreases in value. If it goes from 100 to 80, on paper it's 80, but it's not really finalized until you sell. And that's the idea that I'm trying to get people to understand here, is that it's not a thing. You don't experience loss or gain until you actually sell. And depending on how or where that money came from, the money invested came from, if it came from borrowing from a bank at a specific rate, planning or betting that the market will increase, and then when it decreases, you get screwed and you sell everything, and that causes a panic. Because think about it, if one person is willing to loan or take a loan out for what, 10K, and put into a specific stock, crypto, they still owe that money at a specific interest rate, and they have to pay it back. And so they panic when things go south. And this is not the only person that's doing it. So if a person is going to buy at a specific stock at a certain amount and sell at a lower amount, and that triggers the next person to sell, because they also have taken out a loan to justify or to gamble that security, then that just cascades up or down, I should say, in this case. And then that causes a panic, and that dumps the price. So what does that mean for people like you and I, who don't borrow to gamble, have our money to invest into these securities? What does that mean for you and I? Well, instead of buying crypto or at a piece of stock, as an example, at $100 a share, and when these people panic because they don't want to lose a lot of money because they owe people, when they sell, stock deflates from 100 to 80, and then those who are willing to buy at that price will buy. And that's exactly where people like me come into play. I buy when things are at a discount, and when enough people buy, it balances out the stock price. Because think about it, enough people sell, prices decrease, and when prices decrease, some people are now willing to buy, some people do buy, and that pushes the market at a certain balance. When enough people sell, enough people buy, then that balances out the prices. That stabilizes the stock price. That's why we see a lot of jumps, a lot of ups and downs, like a roller coaster for each stock, because certain people, those who don't have enough information to hold or buy, people who are just willing to buy or sell, they go through that pretty much process that I just talked about, and then we see what we do see, the line graph, right, on the typical stock goes up and down, green or red, and that's pretty much it, right? For my portfolio specifically, I don't necessarily buy single stocks anymore, even though the ones I purchased have done well overall. I don't plan to sell them, but also don't plan to buy as much as I used to anymore. All I do right now is S&P, QQQ, and then I'm thinking about buying Charles Schwab, the index ETF, CHCD. I think it's the ticket symbol, and it's a dividend ETF, right? So the idea here is ultimately trying to replace the monthly income that I earn. Of course, it's going to take a lot of money up front in my end to invest in order to replace that income. I've seen certain YouTubers already have $500 a month, which is, if you think about it, not enough in places like Southern California or Austin, Texas. But it could be enough for those that live in a town that isn't as popular. Of course, it just depends there's a lot of factors I'm not taking into consideration here, right? But the idea is to eventually have your investments replace your income, right? And I wish I had thought about this sooner. I've been invested for a while. I've never necessarily invested in dividends. I've invested for growth, which is why I invested in S&P and a couple of single stocks back in the day. Overall, I'm up by what? Last time I checked was 30%. That's fine with me. I need more, and it's not because of greed. It's because I'm trying to replace my steady income that I have. Because why not? We can always do better. We can always benefit from having multiple streams of income. Alright then, fellas, that's my little rant. All I want you guys to do is just to buy the dip, buy dividend yielding stocks like Charles Schwab, SHCD. I think it's the ticket symbol. And why? Well, because we all can use the extra income a month, right? Whether it be $100 a month, $300 a month. Think about it. In the practical point of view, $100 a month is easily a utility bill covered. Really, it is. Maybe not water, maybe not electricity, but maybe a phone bill for a single person or two. I don't know. Think of it like that. But it does require a lot of investment on the securities holders end. I'm just hoping that people save and invest for the future, so they'll be straight when things go south. Alright then, fellas. Later.